So the verse is the four types of pious persons. O best among the pious, four kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So these are the four types of people. So when we approach the Lord, how long do we go to? Quarter after. Thank you. So when we approach the Lord, everybody has some drive or some motive to bother to even come. Either come to the temple or take up the path. There has to be some motivation to do anything. Most of the devotees here looks like you're coming very regularly. Suppose you have a friend who you know never comes to the temple. And all of a sudden we see that they're coming. And you know that for years they never came. All of a sudden we see that they're coming and praying, they're closing their eyes really tightly, and they're really trying to connect to God. And you might wonder, what changed? What happened? What is their motive? We may wonder, what's his motive? For a whole bunch of people we've never seen before, what is their motive? Why are they coming here? Why are they so enthusiastic? But infinitely more important than wondering about someone else's motive is we should wonder about our own motive. Right? What is my motive? Why do I engage in Krishna conscious practice? So many little things that we do. We wake up in the morning, we chant Hare Krishna, we try to avoid things that are not conducive to Krishna consciousness, and we try to do things that are very positive, conducive, or goodness, and so on. Is it the same motive that I have today with the exam, right? Is it the same motive I had when I first started this process of Krishna consciousness? How have the motives changed over time? As time has gone by, do we see some changes in ourselves? What is it that's happening? We all came for probably most of us fall into one of these four categories of why we came. Maybe we can take a little poll. So, you don't have to answer if you don't want, but if you want to participate, this is fine. So let's see. How many joined or started coming because they're just curious, just wondering what it's all about? That was me, for sure. See, it's quite a good number. How many wanted to solve some kind of either health or financial or relationship or some other material issue? Yes, quite a good number as well. Wonderful. How many have a drive to understand God? So it's a good spread there. It's almost like the same three categories, and it's evenly spread. So it's very nice. How many of us feel that the motives have somewhat changed? Either they've improved or there's even some small changes since we first started. Almost everybody. It's interesting, isn't it? Our motives change as we engage in the practice. And this is confirmed, Srila Prabhupada said several times in the purport. It doesn't matter how you come in, but the process itself has an effect on us. It will change our motives, it will change who we are. And that's the whole point of the process, actually. See? So, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, this is from the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes it. He is emphasizing this notion of pure devotional service. Anya bhilashata shunyam. You know what shunya? Shunya means? Zero. Shunya means zero. And if you ever watch TV in India or something, their telephone number will be like something like shunya, shunya, shunya. It's like zero, right? So they're saying Hindi. Shunya means zero. What should be zero? Anya abhilasha. What is abhilasha?
Desire.
Aspiration. More specifically. Yeah. We aspire for something. Right? Kamna is more precisely desire. Abhilasha means you aspire to be something, to have something. Anya means some other. Anything else. Some other than what? aspiration should be zero. Any other aspiration means, then he gives some examples. Jnana, karma, adi. Adi means etc. So jnana and karma is impersonal knowledge, or just knowledge of spirit, or karma, some fruitive action where you're going to get some fruitive, you can enjoy it, make a lot of money, typically, so about wealth. Anavritam, not covered. Avritam means covered. So this is some examples. Adi means etc. Right? We should be free from these aspirations. It should be not just like 0.1%. It has to be what? Zero. Right? It's not like 2% fat or 8%, right? It's zero. You get a 2% milk, and then you get skim milk, which still has, I think, some fat in it. But it has to be zero. That's how you define pure, right? And then, so you're defining negatively that it has to be free from these things, and then it has to have something positive as well. Anukulyana Krishna Anushilana. Bhakti Uttama. Uttama is the highest. This is the highest kind of bhakti, means it should be transcendental loving service to the Lord that is anukulya. Prabhupada said the purport, in the translation, he used the word what? Anukul means favorable. Favorably. And without desire for material profit and so on. So you're serving Krishna that you want to please him. So Rupa Goswami advises us in this nectar of devotion that we should engage in pure devotional service. Pure devotional service without any selfish motive. Now, material gain and impersonal liberation are both selfish. Both. Sometimes I wonder, how can liberation be selfish? We know material things, yes, so enjoy selfishly. But why is liberation selfish?
Because in that also you want to enjoy becoming one with Krishna and not serving him.
Yes, that's a good point. Because we want to enjoy becoming one with Krishna, becoming one. But the real driving force is really that I'm tired of this pain of the material world. And so I want relief. So what's the center? It's still I. That makes it selfish. It's not that I want to make Krishna happy at all costs. You see, the point of center is not Krishna, it's still me. The relief, I want relief. It is noble to want to come out of the material world. But if it's selfishly motivated, it's not the highest. You see? It's nice. It's nice that you realize you're not the body. It's nice to realize there's something beyond this realm of selfishness. I want to rise above it. But even to get out of, to want to get relief from that pain, it's still based on our selfish desire. So it's a very high standard of being selfless. Very high standard. And Rupa Goswami is not compromising on that. Right? So often, as we grow older, we ask ourselves, what is the essence of Krishna consciousness? What is this pure, unalloyed bhakti that I'm looking for? We know that that's the goal. But when we hear that the goal is pure devotional service, we might become discouraged, even year after year, noticing that we're not quite pure yet. Now, this is an interesting thing to consider. When our acharyas speak of unalloyed devotional service, right, they refer to the purity of the bhakti, not the purity of the performer of the bhakti. It's a very significant distinction. Not the purity of the person, the purity of the act is what is called pure devotional service. Something to keep in mind. So when Srila Rupa Goswami writes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nyayavilashata Shunyam, this is pure devotional service, but in other words, whenever we do something for Krishna, anything, right? Whenever we do something for Krishna to please him, we have no other intention. At that moment, we have no other intention. You see? And if we had no other intention other than to do something for Krishna, then that is an act of unalloyed pure devotional service. The motivation was only to please Krishna. It is possible because it's small. You're just doing one piece, one unit of service. God is one flower, my Lord. So even so, when we have a neighbor who doesn't practice bhakti, doesn't practice any of the principles, but he comes to the temple and he brings something to the altar of Adashata Bihari, maybe a flower, with the desire to please the Lord. Purely. Or his devotees, maybe the devotees get something. Then he has performed an act of pure, unalloyed devotion service, even though he may be not pure in his habits and things like that. So this means that no matter where we stand in our level of purity in our devotional life, we can always focus on this one understanding. I am doing this for Radha Krishna. Right? It is for their enjoyment, not for mine. Whatever little act we do, small or big, if we have this consciousness during our service, we're acting with pure bhakti. For as long as we can stay on that platform, we are performing pure devotional service. So what is it all about then? It is about motivation, intention, and our consciousness at the time of that activity. So obviously not all of us are able to stay on that platform all the time. We turn to other levels. Wherever we're at, whatever struggles we're going through, we return to them. And then we may again think of our own interests, our own desires, our own plans. Fine. For instance, we may offer an action to Krishna partially because of our desire to serve him is mixed with liking to do that particular activity. I like to do that particular kind of thing, and it is good for, it's a Krishna conscious activity. I like to do it. Even that makes it not so pure. Because part of the motivation was because I like to do it, so I'm doing it. But when we do something just for Krishna's smile, just really to connect with him and say, my Lord, this is purely for you. Whether I like to do it or not is irrelevant. Sometimes we do something that even we may not like, but just for Krishna's pleasure. Then for that 1 second, for that millisecond, that is pure bhakti. So when we are explaining this angle by the acharyas, we are filled with hope. See, because I can give Krishna 1 minute or 1 second even of pure bhakti. I think that we can try to do. It's not such a big deal. We just have to have the right motivation, intention, consciousness. And the good thing is that even if we do something small, we all know that it is eternal, to our eternal benefit. Right? There is a verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says that even a little bit of advancement frees you from the greatest type of fear. Everybody know that verse in Sanskrit? Yeah. You know how it starts? Neha Vikramnashasti, chapter 2, it's verse number 40. Yes, wow. He knows the numbers, very nice. Neha Vikramnashasti, Tattevayana Vidite, Svatamapkesa Dharmasya, Trayate Mantovaya. And even a little bit of advancement is for eternal benefit and free from the greatest type of fear. So it is eternal. Even when we die, the eternal benefit stays with us. That act of the neighbor who comes to the temple, not even knowing about Sambandha, Vidya, Prayojan, all the technical philosophy, and offers a flower to Krishna thinking that this is for God. I am offering this to God on the altar for his pleasure. That is pure bhakti. Krishna will never forget it. Krishna never forgets. Krishna is very kind. Krishna never forgets even the smallest thing we do for him. And he also likes it if we don't forget the smallest thing somebody else did for us. Right? That's being appreciative. One of Krishna's qualities listed in the Nectar of Devotion is Kritagya. Anyone know what Kritagya means? Grateful, yes, grateful, gratitude. And literally means knows what you did. Krita, Gya means know, knowledge. And Krita, what you did. I know what you did for me. He always knows what you did. And he always sees the best of the best of the best possible way. He sees it from the best possible angle. A lot of the times, some of our misunderstandings with each other is because we assume the worst possible or even a bad motive in someone's part when they might be trying to do something decent. Krishna never does that. Krishna, even if you try to do something bad, you'll see the most generous positive angle on anything, as long as you approach Him. It's very interesting. So, when we do something for the Lord, for the purpose of pleasing Him, that is pure devotional service, and He never forgets, it's eternal. And as they accumulate, these acts, they accumulate in our bhakti bank account, it grows. And sometimes Krishna is so pleased by even a small act that He's willing to forget all our mistakes and offers His devotee transcendental results beyond the devotee's wildest imagination. The bhakti is such a nice thing. You know? Because one is accessible to everyone, two, it's not that difficult to do, it's very natural. And so, and you get good results, and they're eternal. So, everyone should make it a point that from now on, let's engage in unalloyed devotional service. You don't have to be so worried that I'm not pure yet. That's fine. Maybe when we're embodied, the level of purity we're imagining may not be possible. But it's fine. It's like diabetes, you know. Diabetes doesn't mean you just, okay, I've got diabetes, I'm just going to die now in a week. No, you just control it. You eat things that you're not, avoid things you're not supposed to eat. You just manage it. That's it. So, this is who I am right now. Fine. I can still work around it. I can still be a normal human being for the most part. Just certain things you have to avoid eating. So similarly, when we're materially conditioned, most of us tend to have some material conditioning. It's okay. That's just who we are. But doesn't mean we can't be normal devotees. Doesn't mean we can't act purely. We can offer one act at a time. One mantra offered to the Lord at a time can be done with that spirit, and we'll get massive returns. Right, we're going to chant Hare Krishna anyway, might as well do it with the right intentionality. It's not that you're going to lose any more time, right? If you allocate it, I'm going to do it for a couple of hours. It's not going to cost you more time to do it with a little more intentionality. So, coming back to the 4 kinds of people, the question, are these 4 kinds of people considered sakama bhaktas, sakama devotees? Yes or no?
Yes.
What do you think Srila Prabhupada says? It's a trick question. Yes? Okay, let's see. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada says. So, an interesting purport. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, verse number 21. Prabhupada writes this. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that even if a devotee wishes the Lord to fulfill a particular desire, the devotee should not be considered a sakama bhakta. Sakama, oh yeah, that's a good question, so translate. Sakama means one who is a category of devotee who approaches the Lord solely for selfish desires. Kama means selfish desires, sakama means with. Sa means with. So with selfish desires. And Prabhupada refers to this verse in the purport. He says in Bhagavad Gita 7:16, Krishna says, "O best among the Bharatas, Arjuna, 4 kinds of pious render devotional service to me. The Artha and the Artharthi. Artha means the one who is in distress, and Artharthi means one who wants wealth. They approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead for relief from misery or for some money, are not sakama bhaktas, although they appear to be. Amazing. Being neophyte devotees, they are simply ignorant. Later in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Udara sarva evaite. They are magnanimous, Udara. Although in the beginning a devotee may harbor some desire, in due course of time it will vanish. How beautiful is that? Because intuitively we would think, okay, yeah, sakama, naturally, that's what the whole point is, right? They have 4 kinds of bridal desires, they're sakama. It's not the case. It's very interesting. Therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the same purport continues. Srimad Bhagavatam enjoins akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. That a person who has broader intelligence, whether he is full of all material desires, or is free of material desires, or has a desire for liberation, must, by all means, worship the Supreme Whole, the personality personality of Godhead. So, how is that? What is it about this whole process that makes it possible? The process itself is that powerful. That's the whole point. That it doesn't matter so much. It's a purifying nature of devotional service itself. And it'll have an impact regardless of the initial point of entry. What point of entry into the ladder of devotional progress, doesn't matter. You make it onto that ladder. And then the process itself is incredibly purifying. So this is another purport in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 2. Prabhupada explains this a little further. It said, "It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna in course of chanting without offenses feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination." This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that simply by engaging in it, one becomes pure. So you see, Krishna, he only sees that a person has approached him. That's all that matters to Krishna. That in and of itself is such a great thing. Of course, he says that among the 4 categories of people, who is the favorite? He said later on, these are my favorite. Gyanis, right? Gyanis. So there's a devotee in our congregation in Tobago. And when I told him that Krishna's favorite are the Gyanis, he became so happy and smiled, a big smile on his face. I was wondering, why he's smiling so much? Why he's so happy? And then I realized why he's smiling. I had to clarify that I'm not talking about people from Guyana, like Guyanese. So, no, that's fine. He's not going to Krishna is very particularly inclined toward the Guyanese. Anyway, it wasn't about that also. But still, just see what he gives. Just see what he gives, right? So much to those who are not even favorably disposed to Krishna. Like Putana. Anybody know Putana? What did Putana do? What did she try to do? Yes? She tried to kill Krishna. She tried to poison him. Exactly. That's exactly right. Putana tried to poison Krishna. Now, in the 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, Lord Brahma prays to Krishna. And as part of his prayer, Lord Brahma is so confounded because he witnessed the Putana episode. He was so confounded by that whole Putana episode that he was moved to recite this beautiful prayer in the Bhagavatam. This is 14th chapter, verse number 35. It goes like this. Esham kosha nivasinam utabhavan kim devarate tinash cheto vishva phalan phalam padaparam katrapyayan mohyati sadveshadiva putanapi sakura tvameva deva pita tadhamartha suhrit prayatmatanaya pranashaya stvatkrite. Says, my mind becomes bewildered just trying to think of what reward other than you, O my Lord, could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the cowherd community of Vrindavan. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for her disguising herself as a devotee. What did she do? She pretended to be a devotee, and he saw her as a devotee. She pretended to be a mother, he saw her as a mother. He says, Sadavesha diva putana visakula. He just dressed like a devotee. Sadhuvesh means like a nice devotee dress, you can say. In exchange for that, you gave her yourself. Now, poetically, Brahma is telling, my Lord, you have bankrupted yourself because you already paid her. So you have nothing left to give these residents of Vrindavan. He said, so what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavan? You can see all these devotees of Vrindavan love him so much. But there's nothing left for you to give them. These devotees of Vrindavan whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and their very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you. You have nothing left. So he's telling God, my Lord, you messed up. He completely, blew your whole bank account on Putana. See how kind you are. So you see how Lord Brahma is very smart. Of course, heartfelt devotional prayers are coming out, and he's saying this. He's saying, my Lord, you're so kind. So please also forgive me. Because here, Brahma also messed up. Right? He did Brahma Vimohan Leela, he got confused, tried to kidnap the boys and so on. So, this prayer about Putana is found in the 14th chapter of Lord Brahma's prayers. It's very beautiful. What is the point? That Putana got elevated to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, the highest form of spiritual liberation any devotee can aspire for. And she became one of the associates of Mother Yashoda to serve Krishna as a mother. Why? Because she pretended to be a mother. I'm not saying we should just pretend to be devotees. But how much hope, more hope there is for us. That's how kind Krishna is. He's very much Bhakta Vatsala. We should always keep that hope in our hearts. It'll keep us afloat. It'll carry us through the ups and downs of our devotional service. This strong understanding that Krishna always looks on the good. He tends to disregard the bad. Bhagavatam is described when Putana came to kill Krishna. What is the first thing Krishna did? He closed his eyes. He closed his eyes. So the Acharyas comment, this is Krishna's symbolic way of saying, I'm not going to look at your demoniac side. I'm going to close my eyes to your bad side. I'm only going to see your good side. Acharyas comment like that. It's interesting. So that's how we know that Krishna will not focus on our bad. Doesn't mean we don't work on it. We want to get better and better. For sure, we give our best to improve our entire offering to Krishna, which is our whole self, our lives. So let us try that right now. Let's see if we can muster all the purity within one mantra. And we can, instead of straight again, we'll chant Hare Krishna mantra together. You can close your eyes and pray to the Lord, my Lord, just as you overlooked all of Putana's bad side, please overlook mine. I'm now going to offer you this Hare Krishna mantra with all the purity at my command. Please engage me in your service. Let us chant. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's do it two more times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. So changing our motivation can be very difficult because it's all about our orientation in life, where we face. When we are moving in life, it's a journey and we face a particular direction, and that's where we'll end up. So our orientation in life, our goal in life, where our consciousness is focused, is known as mati. Mati means where is our consciousness absorbed in. And to absorb our consciousness in Krishna, after having spent so much time in the material world trying to enjoy selfishly, it is a difficult project. Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto explains this. He says, Matir na Krishna. He says, Mati, if it's not oriented to Krishna, Matir na Krishna, Parata Satoba, Mithoki Padyeta Griha Vritana, Adanta Gobi Vishatama Nisram, Punah Charita Charanam. That if your Mati is not pointed to Krishna, then again, it is so difficult to move from life of sense gratification. Even if you have intervention of all your friends and they tell you, come on, you got to give up all these things, you will not do it. You may try even your own self, it will be very difficult. Why? Because Madana-gopāla, if our senses are uncontrolled, very stubborn, gopi means senses. Madana-gopāla, Vishadanta-misram, they keep throwing us into the darkest regions of existence. And what are we trying to do? Puna, puna, jarita, charanam. Again and again, we're trying to jarita, chewing the chewed, charanam. That's all. Trying to chew that sugarcane piece. First time we had it was really nice, when other juice came out. After that, it's all dry. We're still kind of trying to chew it again and again and again. That is an unfortunate situation if our mati is not toward Krishna. Therefore, our goal, like these 4 categories of people who come to Krishna, their mati changes by the process itself. So let us allow the process of the Lord, the presence of the Lord in His holy name, to move our mati, the goal of our inner life, the direction that we're headed. Because the journey, we all have different lengths of journey remaining for this life. Let's make sure we're facing the right direction, and then move as fast as we can along that road. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Hare Krishna. I think we have a couple of minutes. We can have some comments if you like, questions and so on. Yes. Yeah, sure.
I'm just wondering if these 4 categories of devotees are not Sakama Bhaktas,
Yes.
who would you call a Sakama Bhakta?
Yes, that's a good question. I had the same question too. It's a very good question. So Sakama Bhakta are those who are stubbornly stuck. And Sakama Bhakta are those, when they get what they ask for, they leave the practice. Whereas the others who stick with the practice are not Sakama Bhakta. They may have something that seems because of ignorance, but because they love the practice so much, they may still continue to pray for material things, but they don't stop coming to the temple. They don't stop the practice of Krishna consciousness. But if somebody, I pray to Krishna, Krishna, please let me pass the MCAT and go to medical school. Oh, when I pass the MCAT, I never come again to temple. And there are people like that, right? We're done, right? Our transaction is done. I gave my bananas and apples, and then you got an MCAT. Good to go. That is the thing. Good question. Yes.
So my question to you is that you said that if a service we are not liking it and we are given by the temple authorities, so if we are doing that properly, so that means we are actually doing something to please Krishna. But sometimes, this is for me, I guess. So whatever I'm good at and I like that service, so I try to put my 100% in that, and obviously to please Krishna. But if I'm not good at something and it is given to me, or somebody's pushing it on me, so I feel like they are just giving it to me. Why I'm doing it as this? So I'm not able to put my 100% in that. So how we go about that? How we change our perspective? Don't want to become pretender and don't want to say, oh, I can do anything for the pleasure of Krishna when I know that I'm not able to put what I'm supposed to. So how we go about it?
Yes, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I hope everybody heard that question. So how we may feel that if I am assigned a particular task or service that I may not be particularly good at, and therefore I may not be able to give 100%, and also it may be somewhat discouraging to me. Like I could have done something else that would have been way better at this other thing, but I've been told to do this. I'm not that good, So that can happen. Of course, that does tend to happen when we are trying to have an organized, institutionalized kind of process and these different opportunities. That can happen, of course. So it's always, You see, this whole process is an internal process. The institution and the different opportunities, these are just to facilitate us to make internal progress. So when we see how Srila Prabhupada dealt with these things, his main point was that don't engage in something that you're going to burn out, first of all. He does say, a beautiful letter is written. This whole, whatever service you do, make sure it is something that you will feel you're making tangible progress. Okay? Now, some of us may be more attached to a particular kind of service. Nothing necessarily wrong with it. It's not 100% pure because motivation means I like that service, but it's still Krishna's service. So that's very good. But some of us may be at a higher level where it really doesn't matter. Prabhu, you just tell me what needs to be done, that's it. No grudges, absolutely, I'll give my 100%. Now, my 100% may not be good at his 100% because he's way good at it, but I'll just do what I can because it needs to be done. So it's a more of an attitude thing than anything else. It's an internal attitude. So if something that needed to happen and nobody else is there to do it, and you rise to the occasion, a couple of things happen. Krishna empowers you to do something you're not good at. Second, you learn a new skill. And third, when you come out of your comfort zone, that's when growth happens. Growth never happens in the comfort zone. It happens between your comfort zone and your breaking point. You don't want to go to a breaking point either. You see, it's like a donut-shaped ring kind of thing, where the inside part is the comfort zone. You just do it so easily, but there's no growth happening. But you're just kind of hanging out. If you step into the discomfort slightly, but not breaking point, that is a magical belt of growth, where you learn new skills, you get better. It's like weight training, you can do 5 pounds, no problem. 10 pounds is tough, but if you do more 10 pounds, then 10 pounds becomes comfort zone. So now that the ring grows, and all of a sudden what used to be discomfort zone becomes comfort zone. You see, so it's a matter of attitude, but you have to gauge yourself. Am I going to breaking point? Am I being really inefficient? And perhaps if something requires having a conversation with those who are signing for the services, definitely. You want to apply intelligence to get the right service to the right person. And if it's doable, you can do that. But you don't want to burn yourself out. So there's many factors to that. The main thing is, am I engaging in a way that is tangible to me, making some progress? Thank you. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for reminding us that whatever we do with the intention and sincere hope in the fact to please Krishna is eternal. No one can take it away. In this age of Kali Yuga, we individually have a thought that we have some control. Would you relate to or speak on how we can go deeper in our aspects of serving Krishna by acknowledging each other and whatever services we do, and that one service perhaps is not more important than another, except with sincerity and desire to serve Krishna?
Yes, very good question, very good comment. That because Krishna is absolute, everything done for Krishna is spiritual. And the classic example of one person's service is way bigger than another person's service. This is way more important than this one. And sometimes we get trapped into that thinking that what I'm doing is insignificant, or it's not even devotional service by comparison to what the other person is doing. Or someone may even insult that devotee or laugh at the devotee. What is this? Why do you even consider yourself a devotee? You're hardly doing anything. Or look at me, I'm doing so much. And even some of the greatest devotees can fall into this trap. You know the classic example of Hanuman. It's a classic example. Lord Hanuman. That was building the bridge, and Lord Hanuman was pretty much uprooting entire mountains and throwing them into the ocean. And, so strong. And then there's a little, what was it? Squirrel, right? Or was it a spider? Okay, so there's a controversy about this. Do you know why it was spider back then? So what is a squirrel or a spider? Right. But in the Bhagavatam it says what? Yeah. And I'll tell you what, it's actually squirrel. It is actually squirrel. But in the Bhagavatam, and the story why it says spider. That's a different thing. So the squirrel was throwing little small pebbles. Running back and forth, throwing a little pebble into the bridge. squirrel. What is this? Ha ha ha. And then just get out of my way. Just come my way. I'm going to squish you by mistake. I don't want to squish you. You're a nice devotee. You know, that's the idea. But then I think it was Lord Rama told him that, look, your mountain and this squirrel's little pebble is the same to me. You see? It's very important. I love the squirrel just as much as you. And that squirrel has the two lines on its back because Lord Rama gave it affectionate touch. This is a symbol of Lord Rama, the signature of Lord Rama on his back. If you want to see the autograph of Lord Rama, look at the squirrels. It's an autograph of Lord Rama. Yeah. Now, so that's the point, is that we should recognize this. The Lord is very great. He sees what we do. And of course, we want to give our 100%. Right? We want to give our 100%. The squirrel is giving her 100%. Hanuman is giving his 100%. Now, if Hanuman starts putting pebbles, also doesn't look so good. Hanuman should still continue throwing the big mountains. So what we can do in this, please. Microphone.
How can we avoid going into this mentality that Lord Hanuman is going to do? Sometimes I can feel like I'm doing so much and maybe
Sorry, how can we avoid what mentality?
How can we avoid going into that mentality that Lord Hanuman exhibits of thinking like, you're not really doing much, you know?
We can avoid it by remembering the story of Lord Hanuman. No, it's true. And we can also recognize that no matter how big thing I think I'm doing, it is so small. Because this whole planet is like a little speck floating in the universe, and then what am I? Nothing, you know. And the fact that I have any abilities because Krishna has allowed me to move my muscle from here to there. He is fully in control. The moment we think that it's because of me that I'm getting things done, then that self-pride comes into place. And that's why we should read these stories. We should also read the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I'm keeping the plants afloat, and then the vegetables get the juice of life through the moonlight that comes from me. And the very next verse he says, I am the fire of digestion. Very next verse, I am the fire of digestion that lets you take the energy from the food. So nothing we can do without Krishna's molecular level involvement and cosmic level involvement. Nothing works without him. So if you can recognize his involvement in every aspect of every movement that we have, and we can fill every action with gratitude that you allowed me to do this today, we will not fall in that trap. Therefore, we have to repeatedly read this, digest it, absorb our minds in it, and fill our heart with gratitude. Gita. Gratitude is the attitude. Gita, G-I-T-A. If you remember that, then you're not on this track. Thank you. It's a great question. I think we're out of time. Right? Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you for the very informative class, Madana-gopāla Prabhu. We're going to have kirtan. Madana-gopāla Prabhu is going to lead us in the kirtan tonight. During the kirtan, if you feel inspired, stand up and dance. Just want to, the row right next to the tile on the edge of the carpet, if you're there, a lot of times people get up and dance. We want to give them enough room to dance. So if you're sitting along the aisle and you want to dance, maybe just slide over a little bit to make sure that you can accommodate everybody. Jai. Hare Krishna.